ghouls, ghosts, and goblins. I'm your ghostess, Spencer, and this is my channel. Is it Halloween yet? If this is your first time here, welcome. Today we're going to talk about 9 horror books I'm looking forward to in 2022. Well, actually, it's like 6 I'm looking forward to, and 3 you can read right now. So let's get right into it. We got a lot to get into. I'm going to read the official synopsis and give you why I think it sounds interesting, and then we'll go from there. So the first one is a debut novel, which is always interesting to me. I love to read debut novels. And it is called Till We Become Monsters by Amanda Headley. From the publisher, we got the synopsis, "Are you ready to be scared? Monsters exist. Corin Piran knew the truth because his grandmother told him so. Corin was raised in the shadow of his older brother Davis, an imaginative child who believes his brother is a monster. After the death of their grandmother, 7-year-old Corin blames Davis for her demise and tries to kill him. 16 years following the attempt on Davis's life, racked with guilt, Corin comes to terms that, in fact, Davis may not have been the one who is the monster after all. Past wrongs needed to be right, so Corin agrees to a hunting trip with his brother and father, along with 2 friends, but they never make it to their destination. An accident along the way separates the hunters in the dark forests of Minnesota during the threat of an oncoming blizzard. As stranded hunters seek for each other and safety, an ancient evil awakes." Love murderous kids in horror novels. I think that's like a fun trope that is usually done pretty well. And I love the idea of a ancient evil in the Midwest forests of Minnesota. I just think that having like a actual horrific event and then the supernatural event just sounds super exciting. So I will be checking that out when it comes out on July 1st. So not much longer to wait on that. Also coming out in July is Paul Trembley's new book. He wrote Cabin at the End of the World, which you should read. It's great. The Pallbearers Club is his new one, and it is about a friendship between a not popular guy and quote-unquote the coolest girl he's ever known. And he is a loner who listens to hair metal and has scoliosis, so he has to wear a back brace at night. And he starts an extracurricular club for pallbearers for poorly attended funerals. So he gets a friend who is like, this is cool, but she starts photographing pictures of the corpses, and like other weird things start happening around her at night. But he kind of brushed it off. She was his friend, so it's fine. So decades later, he's trying to like figure it out. And here's where I get really interested in the book. He tries to make sense of it all by writing a memoir, The Pallbearers Club, a memoir. Somehow, though, the creepy girl from his past has gotten a hold of the manuscript. She has some issues with it, and she's making cuts. And so then it just feels like a meta. The book is happening, the writing is happening, like everything kind of jumbles together in what is happening, what is supernatural, what is just the world, what is fiction, what is fiction that he's writing, what is like it just feels like a total twisty mind bender, and I'm very much into that. So I can't wait to read that when it comes out on the 5th of July. So lots of stuff coming out in July, because I think the next one comes out in July too. The next one does come out in July, and I am super excited about this one because it's by a titan of modern horror, T. Kingfisher, and it's called What Moves the Dead, and it is being sold as a atmospheric retelling of The House of the Fall of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. I love The House of Fall of Usher. I feel like that is a lesser loved Poe work than some of his other things. And if you are like me and love that story, you are eating well this year. Not only are you getting this book, which, according to the official synopsis, is when Alec Easton, a retired soldier, receives word that their childhood friend Madeline Usher is dying, he races to the ancestral home of the Ushers in the remote countryside of Urania. When what they find there is a nightmare fungal growth possessed wildlife surrounding the dark, pulsing lake. Madeline sleepwalks and speaks in strange voices at night, and her brother Roderick is consumed with a mysterious malady of the nerves. Aided by a redoubtable British mycologist and a baffled American doctor, Alex must unravel the secrets of the House of Usher before it consumes them all. So I'm excited. That sounds great. We're also getting that Netflix show. So Mike Flanagan is doing Fall of the House of Usher, where he's also going to work in other works of Edgar Allan Poe into it. But I'm very excited that is the framework. So if you haven't read the original, you should take a second and read that. All of Poe's work is very short, and very digestible. And then you can read What Moves the Dead when it comes out on July 12th. The next novel is from Sarah Gailey, and it's called Just Like Home. And it deals with a woman who is estranged from her mother. And she's estranged from her mother. I think we don't really get a clear cut in the synopsis, but I think it is because her father was a serial killer. And he buried all of the bodies of his victims underneath the house that he had built for Vera and her mother. So her mother begs her to come home. She comes home, and the worst thing is it's just not her and her mother, and they can like work through whatever they got to work through. There is an artist who has moved into the guest house and is slowly taking parts of Vera's childhood for his art. And he insists he's not the one leaving notes that are around the house in her father's handwriting, but she is incredulous. She's like, who could it be? So she's got to figure out what is going on in her house and how far the decay and like moral corruption or supernatural rot goes in it. I don't know if there's anything supernatural or if it is just a like dealing with a horrific event and the horrific aftermath of it and how that works with you. But like, I think the ghost of her dad may still be at the house. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that whole story is about. It sounds like an interesting concept. And then on August 23rd, we've got Relentless Mortals by Gwendolyn Kist. And it is a story about two women from literature who have been forgotten. Lucy from Bram Stoker's Dracula and Bertha Mason from Jane Eyre. So that it's the first victim of Dracula in Dracula and the wife that is bound to the attic in Jane Eyre. So they band together to combat, according to the official synopsis, they band together to combat toxic men bent on destroying their lives. So it's a historical novel that takes place in 1967 California. So the women are presiding in Los Angeles as undead immortals, and Dracula and Rochester make a return in Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco. So the novel spans California in the late 60s, which is always a fun time for California. And I just think the idea of taking these two not so thought about women in literature and making the story about them and about the men who were terrible to them sounds like a fun concept. So you can catch me reading that this summer. The next book I'm looking forward to that is in the future, the next book I'm waiting for to come out is The Gathering Dark, a folk anthology. And it is just an anthology of folk horror. Folk horror is really coming back in a way that I don't know if we've ever really seen it come back in a... Like, I know, like, The Wicker Man has always been around, and, like, we've always had little, like, bits of folk horror, but I feel like we got, like, a lot of it. Like, The Witch happened, and we got Midsummer, and Hereditary, even to, like, a certain degree, is kind of a folk horror movie. If you have not... If you like folk horror at all, Shudder has a bunch of it. They have a whole, like, section that you can look at of folk horror, and one I would recommend on Shudder would be Hellbender. It's a movie made by an entire family. Like, this family makes movies together, and this film is fantastic. Like, it really deals with women and relationships and being replaced by older women being replaced by younger women, and nature and its power. And I just love Hellbender. I think it's a really great folk horror film. So, not that this is a movie, not that this is a video about films, but if you like folk horror and you're excited for this anthology, while you wait, you should definitely check out Woodland Dark and Days Bewitched. It's a historic look of how folk horror started on British television in the 70s and then made its way into the films and things we know today and love, right? So definitely check that out on Shudder. Check out their folk horror section. It's just a subgenre that I think is getting more and more entries, and they are becoming more and more intriguing. And then there's 3 books out you can read right now if you need something to read and you're looking for something spooky and scary. One of my favorite musicians is also an author, and he has a new book out. John Darnielle came out with The Devil House, which deals with a true crime writer who has like middling success. He's got like one book that's famous and then a moody adaptation of that book that is also famous, but all of his other works have not been as notable. But he is given a chance to move into the house where briefly notorious murders occurred that was attributed to the Satanic Panic of the 1980s. So he finds himself in Milpitas, California, which I know where that is. And it is where his closest childhood friend grew up once upon a time. So he starts out very positive about the experience. He's excited to do this. It's his big break. But the story leads him in a direction he never expected, where he is trying to solve a puzzle by going back into his own work and what it means, and the very core of what he does and who he is. So I hope I'm going to start reading this weekend. I'll probably be through with it in the next several days. And if you want a review, hit that like button. I will do a review. I'll do book reviews on here too. I can do all kinds of horror content. If you want any reviews of the books I've done in it, please just let me know in the comments. What books are you excited for this year? Maybe I missed one. I would love to know what you're looking forward to coming out this year. The other thing about The Devil House is if you get it on audiobook, there is music and atmospherics done by the Mountain Goats. So that's exciting if you're a Mountain Goats fan. There's more content for them to listen to with this book. So I hope that it deals with true crime and like really an examination of what has happened with that genre and what is going on with it and the popularity of it. So the book that I'm going to dive into directly after The Devil's House is a novel by Isabella Canis called The Hacienda. And this book is pitched as a combination between Mexican Gothic and Rebecca. Rebecca is a very old, very stodgy, hard to read English literature. But I do think that I do really love that story, and I had to read it in college, and it's been a while. But I do love the story of Rebecca. And I think that, I mean, if you compare any book to Mexican Gothic, I will be there. That book is fantastic. If you have not read it, please read it. Do be warned, though, the body horror in it is intense. The Hacienda, however, takes place during the overthrow of the Mexican government. Our lead, Beatrice, her father was executed, her home was destroyed, and she thinks she's found salvation in a handsome Don Rafaelo Sofranzo. So he says, hey, I'm going to take you to my countryside home, and she's like, I'm going to have a home, and this is fine, and it is what it is. But the Hacienda is not, everything is not okay at the Hacienda. Her husband returns to work in the capital. She starts seeing visions, and she feels eyes watching on her. Her sister-in-law says that's insane, like, doesn't want to buy into that, and but she will not enter the house at night. And the cook is burning incense at the edge of the kitchen and marking the doorway. Like, what's going on? Desperate for help, she finds a priest who uses his skills as a witch to fight off malevolent presence haunting the hacienda and protects the woman whom he feels a powerful forbidden attraction. So we got a priest who's attracted to her. She's probably going to be attracted to the priest. I cannot wait to see how that book plays out. So that is what I'll be diving into shortly after I get done with The Devil House. And the last book I want to read, the last book I'm excited to get into, which is out right now, is Such a Pretty Smile by Christy DeMeester. And it is about a mother and daughter who are both tracked by the Cur, which is a entity that kills girls on the verge of becoming women. And not just any girls who refuse to conform to what it means to be a woman, or know their place, or don't know how to be quiet when society thinks that you should be quiet. And so Caroline and Lily must come together and figure out what is the oppressive, malignant thing that is stalking them. And I'm excited to see how that goes. I think like it is the perfect book for the mood that I feel like I am in a lot of time, which is open my mouth and have bees come out. Like I said, what are you excited to see? You can follow along. I'll have horror news for books and movies and stuff next week on the podcast. I'll have a review coming out for Last Night in Soho and another documentary film, Found Footage Phenomena, which talks about found footage movies and the history of those. That'll also be coming out over the weekend and into early next week. Like, subscribe, share, give this video a thumbs up. It really does help the channel grow. The grow it has. I put up that last video. It was the best thing that has happened on the channel, which while it is a very little number, I appreciate every view and every subscription and every like. So thank you so much. You know what time it is. Sleep or don't.